So welcome to the session on autism and overlapping neurodivergence. I know it's the end of the day, so it's wonderful to see so many people in here. We have 4 speakers in this session. Each of them will talk for around 12 minutes, and then we'll have 3 minutes for questions. If any of the talks run over, we might not have time for questions, and you'll be able to catch speakers at the end as we're leaving. So we're going to start off with Sinead Rhodes and Iona Beange from the University of Edinburgh, who are going to be presenting Epic Think Learn, translation of co-produced research into services and resources for neurodivergent children and young people.
So, we're Sinead Rhodes and Iona Beange, and we're going to talk to you today about the development of our spin-out community interest company called Epic Think Learn. Epic Think Learn focuses on translating neurodiversity research, so the latest research that we're carrying out, into services and resources for parents, teachers and clinicians and young people themselves who are neurodivergent. We offer these services and resources to parents, teachers and clinicians who have a range of conditions, so including autism, obviously, why we're here, but also ADHD and dyspraxia. And of course, these are often very commonly co-occurring. Diagnostic waiting lists are long in the UK and Europe currently, and children and the adults who care for them are often left unsupported during this time, which is a critical time in their development. EPIC grew out of my 25 years of research and engagement work on neurodevelopmental conditions. A lot of this research was actually conducted with children not yet diagnosed, so they were on waiting lists, which means the findings of the research are relevant to those with and without a diagnosis. Of particular note is this paper that you can see here, which we published a couple of years back, which collected views from children and teachers. So we take a co-production approach. It's not the researchers just going in and developing these resources. In that study, the conclusion was that children, and these were children who had recently been diagnosed, had a very limited knowledge of their condition. And their teachers' focus mainly seemed to be on managing behaviour in the classroom rather than looking at sort of underlying difficulties. But our work was also very much influenced by a wider research priority setting exercise. It's called the James Lind Alliance. If you look it up online, you can see lots of those exercises and free to access information. So we sought the views of those with lived experience, so young neurodivergent people, their parents, teachers and clinicians, to identify the kind of research that we would focus on in the first place. And this really emphasized the need for teacher training on neurodiversity, but also parents having access to evidence-based information. So from all of this work, we developed an intervention program, which is known as EPIC, Edinburgh Psychoeducation Intervention for Children. And the first iteration was basically a research program. It was an in-person intervention. We did this just before COVID, where a professional met with the child and had sessions with the child at home and in school over a period of 8 weeks. The focus of the sessions was on psychoeducation, helping the child and their parents and teachers to better understand how the child's brain works. So we took time to identify each individual child's strengths and difficulties, and then supported them to develop and use simple strategies. So the psychoeducation within this particular program focused mainly on helping children understand their executive function difficulties. So that's things like having difficulties moving from one task to another, having difficulties planning out all the steps in a task, or being able to ignore distractors. So that research intervention, we published it, and the findings showed that the children who took part in the intervention arm had significant improvements in their thinking skills, literacy and behaviour, both parent and teacher reported. And crucially, their understanding of themselves. So you can see the statement from one child who took part, who didn't understand ADHD and what that meant, and at the end of the programme, the teacher would say, he was only 6, he would say to the teacher, "My brain is really busy at the moment," to indicate that he needed support. So alongside this research, we also created free downloadable booklets, and they acted as both a dissemination route, so getting the research out there, and to actually see if there was a need for these kinds of resources. So we've had a lot of downloads and requests for new different types of booklets, translating different types of information that we're researching. And we've copies of these booklets here with us today. So there's some here at the front and there's some at a table towards the back. So please do feel free to take a copy home.
So I came on board about 3 years ago, and my key task was to translate this researcher-led intervention into an affordable product that parents could use at home with their child. A self-delivery and with support model that could be rolled out on a wider scale. With input from a range of stakeholders, including the researchers who did the original intervention, I set about converting these free booklets into a manual that parents and teachers could work through on their own. And I then tested it with parents and a teacher. In response to these stakeholder inputs, lots of adjustments were made. But the key feedback was that parents wanted something that fitted with their lives, rather than formal sessions. And a dyslexic parent asked for audio and video versions of the materials. The teacher liked the materials so much, she adapted them for use with the whole class. And she emphasized the need to give resources to pupils who would never end up on a waiting list. And we've also had feedback that they've been used in whole school assemblies. Fast forward a few steps, incorporating as a company, setting up the website, and we now have these services under the umbrella of Epic Think Learn. For parents, we have an online platform with on-demand access to resources, and we also hold topical webinars live with clinical and research experts on topics such as food, sleep, emotion regulation, and anxiety. And now we have a significant library that parents get access to as soon as they join our platform. But parents tell us they need live support. So we hold regular online Q&A sessions and have just started facilitated peer support sessions. Some parents pay for the platform access themselves, and others receive funded placements from local councils and from grants that we've received. For teachers, we have CPD webinars and whole class resources, and for clinicians, we also have CPD webinars. And of course, we have our free resources, our booklets, webinars, and our blog. Today, we are reaching more people in new ways in a more sustainable approach. But for us, research, engagement, and the spin-out company are all intertwined. The research continually feeds into development of new products and updates to existing ones. And prioritizing the voice of lived experience within all of this is crucial. The research continues. Our current resources are for primary school children, but we're currently developing resources for under 5s and for teenagers with a focus on mental health. But these need to be researched, developed, and tested before they can be distributed through Epic Think Learn. Our services are mostly online, and we'd like to roll them out across Europe to parents, teachers, and clinicians, and we'd love your help with that. So we have lots of people who are supporting us to do this work, and I just wanted to say thank you to them. But I'll leave you with this slide, which shows some examples of our resources. This QR code will take you to our upcoming webinars for educational professionals on the topics of masking and depression. Thank you.